Happy Monday! I know y'all are excited to start the week. There's supposed to be like big storms coming here where I am, but that's par for the course. Who knows how it'll turn out? We'll see when it gets here. Uh, Today is my last day of antibiotics, so I'm finally almost over this cough that I've been sick with for a month. Since a week before Christmas was when I started getting sick. It's been brutal. It was not like when I've had bronchitis, but it was not fun either. It was more like kind of sinusy, a lot of tension in my head, in my neck from coughing. So I'm glad to be over that. I don't love antibiotics. Unfortunately, I probably had way more courses of antibiotics in my life than I'd ever hoped to, but I know my limits. Uh, so I will definitely be taking some probiotics after today. Uh, and in between, I haven't been going too hard. Like I used to drink like kombucha in between my see so a little cough in between my doses, but I don't want to mess up the effect too much of the antibiotic by putting extra bacteria in my body. So I've mostly just been using like drinking a little bit of kefir here and there, cashew milk base. I like the forager kefir. It's like on sale at $5. Today's last day of the sale. But like in my area, a lot of places have had the forager cashew milk kefir on sale. I like the mango. It's a little sour, but if you like mango, you may like it. And then the strawberry one is pretty good too. Funny thing, the first time I ever had kefir, I didn't know what it was. This was probably 20 years ago when I was like newer into my health journey. And it's funny because for years I didn't like I had cut down drinking dairy milk because I didn't like the way it made my stomach feel. It wasn't as bad as some people I know who are super lactose intolerant, but it just didn't make me feel good. And side note to that, years ago, about how many years have I been vegan now? Almost 10? 10, yeah. When my kid's dad and I were together, we transitioned, like, first, he was vegetarian, I was gluten free. Then he went gluten free and I went vegetarian. Then we were like, well, why are we eating dairy and eggs and stuff? So then we went vegan at the same time. And both of us had horrible, like, sinus issues. Like, he would be blowing his nose every morning, like so many tissues in the trash can in the morning. And when we stopped the dairy, both of our sinus issues improved a lot, like dramatically. So it didn't solve every issue. Obviously, I still get sick sometimes. But I used to drink like acidophilus milk or lactose free milk back in the day. And I remember there was one time they didn't have it at the health food store. I was out, I couldn't find it. It was funny. So I bought kefir because I saw it was like this is a dairy product um, with probiotics in it. Well, I didn't know it's like a lot of probiotics. It's not just like lactase is an enzyme breaking down the lactose. It's not the same as fermenting something. So it's definitely like a tangy flavor like yogurt, and it's thicker. So I bought it and I tried to pour it on cereal. So that's a really funny story because that was my brain was like, whoa, what is this? And I wouldn't touch kefir for years. And now I like the non-dairy. The cashew one. So in like the middle of my, this is not scientific at all, so do your own research and make your own decisions, but I also use like sometimes for my asthma I have to use an inhaler that has steroids in it, and that can cause other issues in my mouth. So I try to wash that out and then have something with probiotics to kind of try to balance it back out again. So like halfway in between my antibiotic doses, I've had a little bit of kefir to keep my microbiome a little more on track, and I haven't had any issues this time, thankfully. So now it's like I've wiped the slate clean. Still a little lingering from the asthma. Hopefully that clears up. But now I gotta put the good stuff back in again and not have too much sugar initially and just kind of, you know, let things get back on track. So, anyway, that was a whole sidetrack of the thought that I was having today, but I've been, for the last 3 years, I have ingested a lot of content about recovery. I've been alcohol free for over 3 years. It might be like 3.5. And I stopped smoking 3 years ago completely. And I was a person who, I'm not going to say, I don't think, even though there are obviously people in my family who have had addiction issues, there are people in my family who have become diagnosed bipolar, and I believe that's what my mother's issue was. But that's a hard one because, like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Was there mental illness that led to coping through substances, or did the substances change the brain so now we've essentially developed a condition? I don't know. A little bit of column A, a little bit of column B. But I was a kind of person that never had a lot of cravings. So I can't necessarily identify with that aspect that a lot of people have. I feel like mine was more psychological in the fact of wanting to escape the things in my life. And I would go through phases of it, and I mean, I'm going to be real, probably in between bouts of, smoking, drinking, I was on antidepressants for years. I was on Wellbutrin, which I've only realized in the last, 5 or so years that there are stimulant type properties to Wellbutrin. It's also marketed as Chantix for smoking cessation, but it is also sometimes given to people with ADHD, which I didn't know. That's interesting. But I got off all of those things years ago, and when I didn't have those things, I also had the bad behavior trigger warning of SH, which has improved, like, I would almost say I'm about at like 99% now, and it's kind of a weird thing, trigger warning once again, but it's like now I more like visualize it in my mind instead of actually doing it, which it's taken me a long time to develop that, and I'm not going to say I'm never going to lapse again, but maybe that was my go-to when I wasn't using substances, like alcohol to cope. And my biggest problem with alcohol especially was that I would drink it so I black out. Like, it was just, if I made the decision, I would either be like, I'm going to be the designated driver tonight, and I would have like a fuzzy navel. I'd have like 1 or 2 of those, because I was like, I know the alcohol percent in that is super, super small. And if I made that decision, I am the type of person that, like, that would, I would stop. But there was another point where if I was like, I'm going to drink tonight, I'm going to pass the 2 drink mark. And it's cloudy now. I don't know if there was a point where I didn't think I was going to drink that much, and then I did. Like, if someone was going to buy me a drink sometimes, it was like, sure, whatever, until you start freaking yourself out about your behavior and the things that happen. Which did make me eventually stop drinking in places that I didn't feel safe in. But then I would drink at home. So, like, that's not better, is it? Like, you're drinking at home, getting wasted. As I mentioned before, not the last time I drank. To my knowledge, the last time I drank, I bought like a 4-pack of cider. I think I drank 1, and the other 3 sat in my fridge for months until I threw them away. Because along my health journey, it's been physical health first. Because I was so ill 20 years ago, I literally couldn't leave my bed. And I have a hard time mentally when I get sick because of that, and because of my childhood. Because during my childhood, I was left alone to take care of myself when I was 6. I was a single parent. And that, like, 6 weeks or maybe even longer, 2.5 months, when I was 19, when I was 19, and I was stuck at home, ill, like, messed with my head, But I didn't have insurance, I didn't have options, so it became what's the best way to deal with this from a physical standpoint, which led to my research about um, top allergens in foods and food intolerances and becoming gluten free. And then eventually, the more things I learned about health, I would tweak something here, tweak something there, and you know, the more I started getting in touch with my body. So first it was first it was diet, as in what I ate. Then it became okay. I want to exercise, which I always did a little bit. I used to do yoga when I was younger, but then I was working more exercise into my routine, and I was feeling better in ways. Then I ended up dropping the antidepressants for multiple reasons. I was broke at the time. One reason, I wanted to have kids, and I knew that it can affect that whole process, so I stopped. And it's weird because I stopped in a time in my life that was super stressful. So it's like, I guess it's like, it does go to show with things like that, like quitting anything, prescription, and which I don't recommend quitting a prescription without talking to your doctor, especially some of the ones that can have really bad side effects or dangerous side effects. Like, talk to someone, research it first. But to be wanting to get off of something, your life has to be so bad that it's just like, this is just more dookie on the pile of dookie that my life is. So it's like, I'm gonna try it. Maybe that's not the right decision, but I tried it, and it was rough. I had to learn to sit with myself because I had drank in my younger years. I hate to think about it, but I had times in my life where I didn't know how to not be in a relationship. I needed that, like, some person in my life to validate me. And I went through such horrible experiences that I got to the point where I was like, I want to get to know myself and be alone without other people around, and I want to try to do these things to make myself healthier. So it was I mean, I've been doing this for over 20 years. This was not like none of this was overnight. But yeah, the last time I drank, I had like one drink, and I didn't feel good. I didn't like it. And I was like, why am I spending my money on this? I know this is bad for me because the research had come out. I just posted Andrew Huberman's most recent podcast episode, and they talk about alcohol in that episode in terms of the supposed potential cardiac benefits that some people try to say studies have shown, but the other side of that is that those cardiac benefits don't offset the potential cancer risk. So you have to take it all in the big picture and consider what's right for you. And I just thought it was a waste of money. It made me feel like garbage. I didn't like it. And the time before that I drank, or one or two times before that, was when I ended up passing out in front of the toilet, waking up, just horrible. I couldn't even walk past the watermelon at work because I had drank this like watermelon lime flavored cider, and it was absolutely disgusting. So like, if you've ever gotten drunk off of anything that's like fruity flavored, like, the smell of anything that smells like that will make your stomach turn for a while. Not saying to do that, but that's one way to make yourself not want to drink. So, yeah, so I've been, especially with the personal stuff that's been going on in the last 6 months to a year, I've really been like, digesting all of this recovery content. A lot of times, people, I know we're all busy, but I'm a person that, even if it's not recovery content, there are things that I don't love doing. Like, I hate doing dishes. I hate it. There's so many things about it. So I will put a podcast on and listen to the podcast as I'm doing my dishes. It kind of makes me feel like when I was a kid and my family, my extended family would cook, which is one of the things, maybe this is like an Italian big immigrant family thing, but like we cooked. Like that's like you have a lot of people together. Like you're not going out to eat. That's crazy. Like I probably could have counted on one hand the amount of times we went out to eat, because if you've got like 20 grandchildren and like 12, of their parents, and then that's a lot of freaking money to go out to eat. Like that was a rarity. So like we would cook at home and everyone would talk. Like that's one of my favorites. I still do. I love to cook for people and entertain people and feed them good food. And like when it comes to like stuff like veganism, like I appreciate the people that go out there and do the activism, but to me, like a lot of that is really harsh. So I would rather just show people that vegan food can taste really good. It can be delicious. And then they're like, I mean, that's what got me. So, it's been a long day. I know this is a morning for a lot of you guys, but this is like my nighttime where I'm about to go to bed. But I was just having these thoughts and I'm like, I gotta get this rolling. So, yes, listening to these podcasts, one of the things that stopped me and people I knew in my 20s and my 30s from going into any type of recovery, especially many of the people in my group that had religious trauma, because that's a lot of the people like that I know, people that are in the goth scene, if you're in the LGBTQ scene, like community, like a lot of us have religious trauma. So this aspect of like you need to find spirituality, a lot of people mistake it thinking that you have to find religion. You don't have to. I'm an atheist. I don't believe specifically in deities. I just had this conversation recently with someone where they said they're very fascinated with the idea of what happens after you die. And I was like, I don't think about that. I don't care. Like, I don't even know that I believe in spirits or ghosts. Like, in the sense of a physical body, a physical entity that's left the body and that's floating around. Like, I just think that, like, the parts of my body break down and go and make a tree or a flower or something, like they become something else and they get eaten by a frog and they become the frog, like that's how I see it. And everybody's welcome to see whatever they want to see, maybe in a sense it's like I'm part of the universe, the collective experience of life. And I think this is like how some of us have to learn to think about spirituality in terms of recovery. A lot of it is about realizing that like you are not the center of the universe, and sometimes you have to put your faith in humanity and the world. I know that sounds really hard because a lot of us have a lot of trauma. We've been betrayed by people. The state of everything in the world is stressful as hell. Like, you have to have some little spark of faith in humanity in you. And I mean, that is why a lot of us drink and use and isolate, because we get to a point where we don't have any faith in anything. So it just feels easier to sit at home and block out the world and get messed up. Been there, done that. It doesn't really make your life better. And there's a point where you just sink and sink and sink until, I've been there where I had $17 to eat for 10 days. I've slept in a house on the floor with no mattress, just a pillow and sheets and a dog, where there's no heat in the house, where there's fleas in the house with the dog, and I don't have the money to do anything but buy flea medication and comb my dog out every day, while my car is broken down. And the person I'm dating at the time told me that their friend was going to fix my car, and I had to take a 6-week leave of absence from work. And the very last week, I'm freaking out because I might lose my job that is 45 miles away, and I live in the middle of Flint, Michigan. What am I going to do? Go work at Walmart and then just be sucked into living in a city that's impoverished. Like, it's very unfortunate, but like that was the state of my life, in a horrible relationship with someone who did and said they wanted to do horrible things to me. Like, this is where life leads you eventually if you don't, if you lose faith in things, you know? You can't, it is like such a pivotal and vulnerable point in your life to learn that you do need to accept help from other people. And you know, there is a point of breaking away from your family that you grew up with, being adult, going out there, trying new things, having new experiences. Sometimes you have to distance yourself from people that have been in your life because they're not always healthy, and that's a hard thing to process and to set the boundaries. But when you do that, you'll be a lot happier. So I think that this aspect of recovery is letting go of your ego, that you know what's right. And the science, if you watch all of these interviews with neuroscientists and people who work in the recovery field, the best way I can put it is, when you are using substances and alcohol regularly, if you have trauma even, your brain has been changed. It's like having a GPS in your car that got a virus that is going to send you to bad places. You're going to make bad decisions. You're going to put yourself in dangerous situations. You don't think you are, because you don't know that you have a virus in your GPS, you know? You don't know that you're going to end up, if you continue on this path and not asking for directions from someone, you're going to end up in jail, or you're going to end up sick, or disabled in a way that you weren't before because of your use, or you're going to end up the ultimate worst place of all, like 6 feet underground. So it's really hard for some of us that have been super, what's the word I want to say, hyper independent, and who have had trauma and issues with trusting people, to put our faith in other people, to basically listen to the directions and trust them. That this person, or these, it doesn't have to be one person necessarily. It can be a community of people. Talk to lots of people. It's like recovery is like dating. Like, I used to think that someone liked me, so I should try dating them, you know, just to see what it was like. And I didn't used to get to know them as well as I do now. Like, I give it time. I ask lots of questions. I have boundaries. Like, I won't live with someone until I've dated them for a year and they've met certain criteria. Like, can't be actively using. You can't be having major alcohol problems. Like, I'm not going to live with you because I have worked so hard to get my life to the point where it is where I'm stable. I have put a lot of work into my job and getting financially stable. I have my place that I live. And the thing is, I would not have this stability if I thought I could do it all myself and never ask for help. Like, the place that I live, I had to put myself out there and say to people, hey, I'm looking for somewhere to live. Like, does anybody know someone reliable who has a place for rent? And I actually had multiple friends of mine suggest this place to me, which is awesome. You know, like, I'm so grateful that they did that. But if I didn't ask, they wouldn't have known to mention it to me, you know? Like, you have to put yourself in there. And this place, I don't know, I could have moved in here and I could have had a horrible landlord. I could have had, this place could have been a dump where things didn't work. But it's like, I had to trust the people and just try. Sometimes you have to just try. And, like, that's how, you know, recovery is like dating. Like, are we going to stop dating people for the rest of our lives? Or at least having friendships? Because we can have, you know, deep connections with people outside of whatever we do in the bedroom or physically. But you still have to have connections in your life, or you're going to be a miserable person. And, you know, recovery is another type of connection. So it's like, you have to keep trying and asking questions, getting to know people. But there has to be a point where this idea of surrender that people get so frustrated with when they talk about in programs like AA. Like, it doesn't have to be you surrendering to some culty deity religion that tells you everything to do. It's just like, there's a bunch of people out there who have lived through a lot of the experiences that you have and have the directions or the recipe on how to do it. And I love the Addiction Assassin. I reposted her YouTube video. She's a doctor, Dr. Labor. Oh my god, I don't know why her. Nicole Labor, that's what her name is. I had to think about that for a minute. So she works in the field of recovery as a physician. And I loved her analogy of it, that it's like you could try to make a cake at home with your ingredients yourself and your little paper instructions, but the people that are in the recovery group community, they're like the chefs, they're like the Gordon Ramsay of recovery. Like, they've been doing this. Why would you not want to listen to the people who are like the masters at doing this? Why would you not want them to show you how to do it? And so many people fight it. Like, they don't want to accept that their GPS system has been compromised. They don't want to accept that they might need to lean on other people sometimes because it's scary. But it's like anything in life, mental health, addiction recovery, anything that you do in life, networking. Why do people end up with amazing jobs and amazing places they live? And I mean, you know, the dark shadow side of this, I guess, is nepotism. But it's like, how do you end up with opportunities in life? Networking and connection and trusting other people to help you out. And a lot of people like me that grew up in trauma, we had no network of support. We weren't given good tools. We didn't have parents that emotionally support us, let alone financially. So it's like we're trying to do everything ourselves. But there is a point where you have to let it go and be like, you know, you have to have faith that someone out there, if you keep trying, is going to present you with some directions that are going to help you to get to where you want to go. Because your system is not working. So, I don't know if that made any sense to anybody. But recovery has made my life so much better. Like, right now, there's stressful stuff going on. But you know what? Like, I have to, even in, like, working on my codependency, trust that other people are going to get it taken care of. I am not the master of this situation. Maybe I see patterns in things and I have experience, but also, like, sometimes I'm not the one. I'm not the one to tell someone what to do. And you should never just listen to one person. So put yourself out there, experience people. Like, learning is a spice of life, and no one is learning when you're sitting at home alone in your room. Like, even with the social media, great for stuff like this, recovery, making new connections, making new friends. Now take those friends and those connections and get offline. That's the whole point. It's like social media, especially things like Facebook and things where you're finding people to make friends with, like, it's like you're dating to make friends, to get out in the world and do stuff. And I know that's hard for some of us that are neurodivergent. I mean, I get overwhelmed and stuff too. But it's like, myself, people in my life, we've been trying to limit our social media because it's stressful. And it's curated for capitalism. So it takes a lot of work to hide the stuff and filter the stuff that you don't want to see. And even when you do, sometimes something happens. Like the last election, man, I got so much stuff pushed my way politically that I was not interested in, that I have tried to filter out in the past. So I had to start, don't show me this, don't show me that, don't do that. And it took a few weeks for it to start disappearing from my feed. Like, you can do that. It takes a while. But also, it's like, it's not the real world. So you have to get out there and do stuff and have experiences and talk to actual real human beings that aren't just I mean, don't get me started on like the whole AI thing. Yes, there are some benefits to it, but it's like a tool. You want to build a house with it, or do you want to like hit yourself in the head like with a hammer? Like you could do both. Like choose wisely. So connections are important, and I think a lot of joy can be found in life by realizing that like your experience is not all everything. Like yes, it's your life, but the joy, this is why if you don't want to have children, fine, that's great. Plenty of people I know who don't have children still like to interact with children on a limited basis. Some of y'all don't, that's fine. But a lot of people, the part about children that they enjoy, the experience, is that there's like excitement and newness to children that we've kind of lost, you know, like, and you kind of vicariously live through their joy. So making new connections in your life is like giving you a different perspective on the world that like, oh yeah, like I forgot that like that could be exciting because it's just become so everyday to me. And everything from like young children to like seniors, like they have people that are older than us have had so many experiences that are so fascinating and they have so much insight. And we are all really, really missing out by like not interacting with them. Like, yeah, some of them have not taken care of themselves. That's how it goes. I mean, maybe the best thing you learn from a senior like that is like, you know, whatever they did, I'm going to do my best to try to, you know, not go that way. Like sometimes a person can give you directions to a good place or they can show you directions to a bad place and you're like, okay, I'm not going to that side of town. So you got to let it go. You got to trust, find some trust in people, and sometimes you're going to with boundaries too, you know? Cuz sometimes you're going to give some trust to people and they're not they're not it. You know, but I think the good thing about communities, like recovery communities, is like you have a lot of different inputs. As I've said before, sometimes I'll post something in a recovery group and someone who's obviously very hurt, you know, with their situation has a very negative comment to make about it. That's like one person out of like 100, 200, 1,000 that makes that comment. So the more you interact with people, the more you can reflect on it and see that that's their experience. That's not the overall story that you're getting. So I don't know what else to say about that, but I'm really excited that recovery and cutting down on doing things that we know aren't good for us is becoming more popular. It's kind of weird in a way because it's like, trust me, like a day or two ago, if I would have got on here and made a live, it would have been the most depressing thing ever. I did post something on my page about addiction, and it's like I could tell you terrible stories, like depressing, terrible stories. I mean, if that helps someone to show that like you can survive and go through that, great. But a lot of us, like, it's the same thing as the activism stuff with veganism. Like, it's not for everybody. Like, everybody's not inspired by that. So being resilient and kind of sticking it to life in a way of like, you know what, this sucks, but like I'm going to find a way to keep going no matter what. Like I'm not going to allow my trauma, my dysfunction, these things to steal the little bit of joy that I get in life away from me. Like it's not easy every day. Like the other day I literally like was so exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, being sick for like a month. I was like, today is a day I'm gonna lay in bed. There's just, I have to rest. Accepting rest is a hard thing too. And accepting not living in the extremes. So that's a whole nother discussion about recovery. Obviously, we know from neuroscience, from brain scans, from imaging, from studies, that these things change the brain. But I think this is where I'm saying this whole idea of spirituality, like, it doesn't have to be it's not necessarily religion. It's letting go of the idea that you have it all under control, because you don't. Like, they could do a brain scan and show that your brain, this is why they say addiction has similar effects on the brain neurologically, on scans, in the behaviors of people. That's why there's stereotypes about people that are addicts. That's why a lot of times, we don't like to stereotype people, but sometimes you've been around enough people, like, you can point someone out and be like, they're probably on an upper, they're probably on a downer, they're probably drunk. Like, there's just clusters of behaviors that come with that thing. And that's why we say this is a degenerative progressive disease. But it's like, a lot of it you can turn around, and if you can't do it through behavior, there are ways to do it through medication and therapy. But you have to be willing to keep trying and let go of the fact that you need to be this perfect person who has it all under control, and that if anybody isn't perfect in helping you out in life, that everything's screwed. Like, yeah, there's disappointment sometimes, but you have to try and try and try again. Because the other options are that GPS that's broken that's going to drive you off a cliff. It's your choice. But, like, I don't want that. I've watched that happen to so many people, and I'm not here for it. So it's like, everyone in my life I know isn't going to get recovery. Some people are just cut back. It's never going to disappear from society, but in a weird way, because everything is becoming so much more potent, it's like it's speeding up the process of consequences for people. It's kind of wild. Like, this is how I look at life. Like, sometimes I have to process it, but there is always, when there's the light and dark side to everything. Like, there's a balance to everything. So it's like, yeah, stuff sucks right now with all the things that are being put on the market that shouldn't be, that are accessible to people, that are super concentrated. They were just talking in that podcast with Huberman. I think it was the one with Huberman. May have been another one I posted. But they were talking about how, like, the hemp has changed over the years. And now it's basically gone from being the equivalent of, the plant that you get cocaine from to the ultra concentrated thing. Like, this is where it's becoming, and this is why people don't like to hear this, but a lot of people are ending up in hospitals from psychosis. And I had not thought of this, but it makes total sense. They said in the interviews that a lot of it is people who are taking edibles or making products at home where everything's not kind of standardized. And this is a whole other area that I know about because I worked in supplements, but it's like, say you make a big pan of brownies, like, you don't know how the distribution is in there. So there are some people who just happen to get the wrong corner of the brownies, and then, like, they've had way more than they ever would if they were smoking. And the same thing they're seeing in hospitals now with the edibles. People are impatient. I've been there. Like, when I was younger, I took caffeine pills like a dummy. I guess that was like a late 90s, early 2000s thing. My friends were like, yeah, it'll give you energy. And I took one. I'm like, it's not doing anything. So it was like 20 minutes later, I took another one. I puked all night. I thought I was going to die. Like, my heartbeat, it hurt. Like, it was not fun. And this is what's happening with people with edibles now, is that, first of all, a lot of them have no concept. They haven't been it's progressed so fast that we don't even know the potency and the strains of what's in stuff. But then it's like, people think that stuff should work instantly. So they take one, they eat one, they wait 10 minutes, they take another one, and then they take another. And then by the time it all hits them, you're like, the room is spinning and you're hearing voices and you don't know what's going on. Like, you think that the police are coming to get whatever. Like, it's a very real issue, and it's maybe a thing that used to happen to people with longer use or in smaller quantities of the population, but the potency of things is almost like speeding up the process where and the amount of people using stuff now is speeding up the process of like how much research we're able to do on these things. So yeah, it sucks. Like substance use, alcohol use, all of these things like does grow in certain regards, but like they're they're researching it, and you know, younger generations are paying attention. That's why kids that are younger are not drinking as much anymore. Um, and oh, I lost my last thought on that. But yeah, there's good and bad and everything. Oh, the other thing that was really interesting, if anybody is interested, it's just like a 3.5 hour long podcast. But Huberman talks about um, he talks in the podcast about a lot of different substances, from like alcohol, marijuana, opiates, stimulants, and then they talked about different types of research on psychedelics. So the most interesting point that I took away from that, and this is what I see a lot from therapies, is it's like how you're, once again, a tool, how you're using it. So you can use something under the proper settings with the proper, what's the word I want to say, with the proper guidance, and maybe have a less bad experience than if you just decide to go AWOL and do it yourself. But a lot of these things that people think are resetting their brain or helping them, you are rolling the dice. I've heard a lot of these therapies, there's only like a 30% chance of a good outcome. There's about a 30% chance of mediocre and didn't really do anything for me, and then there's about a 30% chance of something really bad happening or people becoming addicted to things. Not psychedelics so much, but things like, when they talk about ketamine therapies, and like these are not, people think that they know better than the experts. And part of this comes out of lack of resources. And I hope that things don't change, but I do like that they said in the Huberman interview that they have started coming down on insurance companies with these laws in states where they are not allowed to set these extreme exclusions on people in regards to the difference between mental health and physical health assistance. So like, whereas they used to be able to set these really short, it's substance use related, you only get X amount of days. Like, they're starting to have more laws in states where like, no, you have to provide it, which does suck because it means that sometimes our premiums go up. But I mean, honestly, and I spent, speaking of the 30-30, I spent, this would be like 2020. I spent 1/3 of my income last year on taxes and medical stuff. About $11,000 on taxes, and about $10,000, which has been pretty much the norm over the last decade. God, that's a lot of money. That's so much money. But it's been like $10,000 a year on medical stuff. But that nests in my mental health care. And I mean, to be honest, like, I go twice a week. Like, if you can afford it, if you're in that part of people, that nest of people who make enough money to be able to pay your basic bills and then put aside that 10 grand, great. I've had times I couldn't do that. I mean, that's where community helps. That's how I got started in a lot of this, was reaching out to community, because I wasn't in the position to go to therapy or to go to the doctor or whatever. I had to do research, but I took in a lot of different research because I didn't have all the answers to everything. And yeah, we gotta you got to keep an open mind. You can't just shut yourself down to the world and think that like you've got it all figured out. I will tell you, as I have aged over the years, you never have it all figured out. There's always more to learn. And I've said it before, but people get upset because they're like, what's the best one thing? Like, what's the magic pill? What's the best food? What's the best diet? What's the best therapy? There's no one best thing because everybody's different. Everything is different. It's like we're like, as I've described it in my mind, every person is like a Rubik's Cube. We all have like different ways our Rubik's Cubes mixed up. The same types of moves can help to get us to where we need to be, but it's not the same formula for everybody. We've all been like thrown a different, dice of like what we're getting in life, and the same fundamental concepts need to be applied. What you're eating, what your supplements are, are you exercising, how's your mental health, how are your relationships and friendships in your life, like all of these things, your connection. Like we all need these things, but that doesn't mean that like this one diet's right for everybody, or this one supplement's the answer to everything, or this one person is the best person for everybody to be friends with. So get away from the thinking that like there's one way to do it and that you have got it all figured out. And I guess I'll leave it on that note. Letting yourself go. What do they say? It's really funny because you'll never hear me say this in any other sense. But the idea of like submitting to something, like that's hilarious because that is not a me thing at all. But yeah, you have to submit yourself to the concept that like you don't have it within your power to give yourself the best life. You have to accept help. And if you don't accept help in whatever of those areas of your life, you're going to suffer more. And sometimes you're not going to make it. So surrender, I guess, is a better word than submit. Surrender yourself to the idea that you're stuck in this one path and that's it. So I hope everybody has a great day. I know I haven't been really posting a lot of vegan stuff. I feel like it's become very saturated. Like it is a facet of what I want to put out in the world of my social media, but it's not all of me. And the recovery stuff has been mostly what I've been working on in the last few years. It's just like the evolution of everything that I've been working on. And I think like in all these areas, this is where we're part of the collective of humanity. Like we receive from people and it helps us grow, then we give to other people. And it's like I said, I don't believe that I have some little spiritual ghost in me that like floats away to the sky when I just don't believe that. You can believe whatever you want. But I do think that like me as a person, the molecules in my body are going to go out into the world and become something else at some time. It's like we receive, we give back. We receive, we give back. Like that's where it is. And if you're not participating in that cycle, your life's not fulfilled. So put yourself out there and don't be afraid to like fail. It's just like I said, I mean, even if you give up on, some people do at some point give up on romantic relationships. I don't think people should ever give up on friendship and connection because it enriches your life so much and helps you grow as a person. Even conflict, a lot of times, like it can be uncomfortable, but the more you practice it, the more self-awareness you have. So it's like this idea that there are difficult people and difficult situations in the world, they actually help you grow when you learn how to deal with them. And it is hard for us people with trauma, us people who have not chosen the best coping mechanisms, who didn't ever get a chance to be shown good coping mechanisms. It's scary to think that like, how we're going to feel when we go through conflict. But it does get easier. Hard things get easier the more you do them. like, neuroscience has shown this too, like brain elasticity. The perfect example is like David Goggins and all of his stuff, and they've studied his brain, and it's like putting yourself into stressful situations to the degree that you have the capacity for, and pushing yourself just a little bit into that uncomfortableness will help you grow as a person, because our bodies aren't growing at the same rate as they were when we were kids or adolescents, but there's always changes in life, and there are still things you can do to affect your body and your genetics as you get older. I can't say that I'm doing the best I've ever done physically, but I mean, I forget until I go out in the world and I see people that are my age, then I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I'm not doing too bad. Like, I'm hanging in there. So I try to take it easy on myself in that regard. But pushing yourself, growth, it helps your brain stay stronger. That's why, like, people when they get older, they do all these brain puzzles and crosswords and all that. You got to keep your brain strong. You got to keep pushing yourself. You're not going to feel good in life if you don't continue to grow, if you stay stagnant. So, in terms of health, recovery, mental health, substances, whatever, if you just sit in it, which some people do, I can't live that way. Like, I need to continue to grow in life to be happy. I mean, I just don't want to sit and rot until I die and my molecules go off to be some slug somewhere. Like, I'm not, I want to be the best I can be and experience things in the healthiest way that I can for as long as I can. So I hope you guys have a good day. I'm going to try to go to sleep now that my brain has been firing. I guess I'm glad I didn't come on sick and make like a video this week. I could have, and that would be fine if I needed to vent, but I'm trying to invite people to kind of reach out to me more when they have the capacity to listen to that, because that's a lot to just on people. Like, I mean, I have a therapist for that, but sometimes I even I feel like I'm going to open up a lot of questions to her soon, because it's like I've been doing 4 years of therapy and I've just gone in there and vent. This is what's going on. And the validation is great, but it's like I have kind of gotten to this point where I'm like, what am I doing right now? And I don't think I should stop doing it, because I think the reason that I feel better is because what I'm doing is working, but also I feel like I have to step it up. And like, I don't think I posted on here, but I have an entire, those Rubbermaid totes that are really big that like you store your holiday stuff in. I have one of those full of journals that I started. The youngest one was from when I was 12. This will have to be another discussion down the line, but they start when I was 12. There's a little bit of a break. Then they start back up when I'm about 17. And I wrote very regularly. And I kept them because there are people in my family who now I think probably drank a little too much and got alcohol-related dementia. But it scared me because I was like, one day I might lose my mind and not remember anything. And maybe that'll still happen. Maybe it's in my genetics. But also, like, I take care of myself better. So I have all these journals. And now the crazy thing is I dissociated so much and, used alcohol and other things to escape that I'm kind of scared to even look in these journals, because I'm like, okay, I was surviving but not processing. So I opened one up recently from when I was 12, and I was like, whew. So that's what I'm talking to my therapist about next. And it might take me a decade to work through these. Oh, I stopped writing daily about when I had my daughter because I was just too tired. I was lucky I could feed myself half the time when my daughter was an infant. But I've got like 15 odd years of journals to go through, and it's going to be really interesting because it's very visceral for me, having a very, you know, um, what's the word I want to say? A very sensory rich memory. Like when things come up for me, like I smell it, I feel it, I taste it, like I'm in it. So I'm trying to take it slow, but I have to push myself. Like I have to address all these parts of myself and all these things that I went through and take accountability for the things that were mine in my life that I was just ignoring because it was numbing out. So, you know, you got to keep growing. Like another great analogy before I get off here that I'll say is I have a 7-year-old, and her dad is a verbal thinker. So I don't know if you've ever known someone who verbally, like, they just don't have it in their narrative. Everything comes out of their mouth. But a lot of times it can be very negative. And I've noticed that my kid does this thing where she gets into this, like, negative thing. So I looked up on YouTube for some ideas because I don't know everything. Somebody out there probably has better experience with this than me. And this person on YouTube said, like, a really good way to describe it to your kid is to talk about it like when we're not trying to invalidate important things, like something really horrible is going on. Like, I'm not telling my kid she can't talk to me, but it's like, is this something that we can fix, that we can change right now? No. Perfect example right now, my kid hates the grade that she's in. She doesn't like her teacher for whatever reason. Like, I guess she just doesn't not like him. She just doesn't like him. So it's not as fun to her because she's not getting the same type of validation that she got in the past. So she complains about school a lot. She didn't want to go. And I'm like, to a 7-year-old, 1 year seems like forever. To me, I'm like, it's just like 1 year is going to be gone before you know it. But that still doesn't, like, compute for a kid. So the woman in this video said, describe it kind of like your words are building a bridge in your mind. So you can build a bridge full of, like, negative thoughts and ideas. And the more, this is backed by neuroscience too, because this is habitual. You're building pathways in your brain. So the more you focus on the negative that you can't do anything about, that you're not making a solution to, you're building a negative highway in your mind. Now, if you start trying to think about positive things, your mind gets into a habit where you're building a strong highway for positive thoughts. And this almost is a little bit too big of a concept for a 7-year-old, so this is going to date me on my age, but my sister got my daughter a Rainbow Bright pen, and my daughter recently asked me about it. She's like, what is that? Because, like, who the heck's watching Rainbow Bright to 7 years old right now? So we watched some of it, and then when I went into this bridge analogy with her, I explained it to her like, okay, when you are focusing on the negative things that you have no control over right now, instead of the things that you do have control over and the positives, it's like, remember Murky Dismal and, like, the gray, swampy, nasty land in there? Like, that's the land that you're building inside your head. You are, because my daughter likes art, so I'm like, you're painting a picture in your head of a nasty, gloomy, whatever world that you have no control over. It's like, or you can choose Rainbow Land over here, where you can start thinking about the things you do have control over and the positive things and what you can do, and you can make Rainbow Land. And what do you want to do? And I've noticed that it's already changed her attitude. So I'm going to keep working on that one. But I mean, sometimes the interesting thing, if you ever do have kids, is having to break down a concept into a idea that a 7-year-old can get. You're like, okay, now as an adult, like, this actually makes this even easier for me to do this thing. So while having children is exhausting sometimes, and I'm like, sometimes I'd be like, I love my kid, but I'm like, what would I do if I didn't have a kid? Like, there's a lot of things I can do, and I will. I did things in my 20s, and I'll do things again in my 40s. This is a time in my life where I am helping another human being develop and grow. But it has taught me a lot about myself. And this is what I say to people: if you decide to have children, raise children, adopt children, whatever, like they're going to teach you a lot. And especially if they are genetically related to you, like I think even nieces and nephews, this could apply to, like, because trust me, my kid is so much like my one sister. You don't know what you're going to get when you have kids, unfortunately. Or fortunately, I don't know. I only have one, and I don't think we'll be having any more. We get a phone call. I don't need to answer that. But, like, when you have kids, you don't know what you're going to get. Sometimes they come out just like your sibling. Hope it's a sibling that you get along with, because if not, you're going to have to learn all over again how to try to get along with that kid. Or they might be like the person you had a kid with, and then you're like, okay, now I got to figure out how to deal with this. But it will teach you a lot. It will force you to have to grow, and it will, I don't know, some of my friends, I have a sister, I have a friend that both work with kids, and it's like, I'm sure every kid that you get to know is going to test you and reflect something back to you about yourself. So there's wisdom in talking to people with experience, and there's wisdom with relating to children. Like, these are all parts of our personality. Like, there's an old lady in there somewhere inside of me, and there's a little kid too. And I have trouble getting in touch with the little kid sometimes, but I'm working on it. So, connection, connect, experience new things, get out of your little box. Don't think that you know everything, and let go of the idea that the way you think things are going to play out is right, because your brain's not always right. Just try it. My favorite thing that one of my bosses ever said to me when I said to her, that's a horrible idea, that's not going to work, she said, just try it, just to see that it doesn't work. Like, it's not going to, you're not going to get fired, nobody cares, just try it. And I was like, I could do that? Awesome, I'm going to do that. So, detach yourself from the idea that you know what the outcome's going to be, because you're not God. You're not whoever, whatever you believe in, you're not. You don't know the outcome. So be a little more discerningly daring. I'm not always the most adventurous person, and it's funny because I'm attracted to very adventurous people, and it's like there's a balance between us, because I feel like I help to ground people a little bit, and then they pull me into getting out of my little bubble. And that's what connection is about. None of us is like the ultimate, human. We work best when we work together. So even people that challenge you, people that are different than you, don't want to get too political, but some of these people on an individual level, some of them still, there's a little bit of something in them that, like, is relatable when you talk to them. And we forget when we're on social media, because everything becomes a conglomerate of a stereotype, of a thing about, like, that takes the humanity away from people. So, reconnect and have more faith in humanity. The world needs that. Things always change. Good or bad, nothing ever stays the same. So remember that when you get stuck in your mind that, like, everything sucks. Like, tomorrow's a new day. Tomorrow could be different. Next year could be different. So don't let yourself get stuck. Don't get stuck in life. Have a great day, guys. Love you. I'm trying to finish, and it's trying to get me to do extra stuff. Facebook keeps changing things on here.